The first time his daughter looked at me with tears in her eyes. She didn't ask if I loved her father. She asked something much harder: if my mom comes back someday. Will you disappear? The question stole every word from my mouth, because no matter how deeply I loved her father, no matter how much I cared for the little girl standing in front of me, I couldn't promise something that wasn't mine to promise. I couldn't tell her the future. I couldn't erase the pain another person had left behind. And in that heartbreaking silence, I realized love isn't always about finding the right answer. Sometimes it's about staying long enough to prove that your actions can speak when your words cannot. 3 years earlier, I wasn't looking for love. After a painful breakup that left me questioning my own worth, I buried myself in work. My days revolved around a small neighborhood bookstore in Ohio where I managed the children's section. Books were predictable. Stories always found a way to make sense by the final chapter. Real life wasn't nearly as generous. Every Saturday morning, parents brought their children in for story hour. I loved watching families laugh together, even if a small part of me wondered whether I'd ever have that kind of happiness. That's where I first met Ethan. He wasn't the kind of man who demanded attention. He quietly slipped into the back row, carrying a sleepy little girl on his shoulders while balancing a stack of library books under one arm. The little girl had messy brown curls, sparkly rain boots, and a stuffed rabbit missing one ear. She looked around the room with cautious eyes before hiding behind her father's leg. "I think someone feels shy today." I smiled. The little girl whispered something into Ethan's ear. He chuckled. "She says you're wearing dinosaur earrings and dinosaurs are cool." I laughed. Tell her she's absolutely right. The little girl peeked out just enough to smile. That was Lily. She was 6 years old. And from that moment on, Saturdays became my favorite day of the week. Week after week, Ethan brought Lily to story hour. Some children bounced around the room with endless energy. Lily always stayed close to her father. If she colored, he colored beside her. If she read, he listened carefully. If she got scared, she reached for his hand without even looking. It was obvious they'd been through something together. One afternoon, after story hour ended, Lily accidentally left her stuffed rabbit behind. I ran outside to catch them. Ethan looked exhausted. Dark circles rested beneath his eyes. His jacket had a tiny pink stain that looked suspiciously like strawberry yogurt. He accepted the rabbit with visible relief. "You just saved bedtime," he laughed. "I'll consider that today's good deed." He smiled. "You've probably done more good than you realize." Something about the way he said it stayed with me. Weeks later, we bumped into each other at a grocery store. Lily waved enthusiastically from the shopping cart. "Miss Emma." She sounded genuinely excited to see me. Ethan looked almost embarrassed. "I swear she remembers everyone who's ever been kind to her. I just remember the people who remember dinosaurs." Lily giggled. Before leaving, Ethan hesitated. "Would you maybe want to grab coffee sometime?" I looked at him for a second. I'd like that. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner became long walks through the park, while Lily raced ahead, collecting colorful leaves. Slowly, I learned their story. Lily's mother had left when Lily was only 3. No dramatic fight, no tragic accident. She simply decided motherhood wasn't the life she wanted. She packed a suitcase one morning and never came back. There were birthday cards during the first year, then silence. Ethan never spoke badly about her. Instead, he answered Lily's questions with quiet honesty. "Your mom loves you in her own way," even when I suspected that sentence broke his own heart every time he said it. Months passed. Without realizing it, I became part of their little routine. Movie nights, pancake Sundays, helping Lily practice reading, building blanket forts in the living room, watching Ethan dance terribly while making spaghetti. It wasn't perfect, it was real, and somehow real felt even better. One snowy evening, Lily fell asleep on the couch with her head resting against my shoulder. Ethan covered her with a blanket. "I haven't seen her this peaceful in years," he whispered. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. Finally, he said, "You're changing our lives." I reached for his hand. "No, you are." A year later, Ethan proposed during a picnic at the same park where Lily had once collected autumn leaves. Before I could answer, Lily held up a handmade sign. "Please say yes." I laughed through tears. "Yes." Lily screamed loud enough for birds to fly from nearby trees. Life finally felt like it had settled into the kind of happiness I'd only read about. Then everything changed. One afternoon, Ethan received an unexpected phone call. Lily's mother wanted to see her. For the first time in nearly 4 years, the news shook everyone, especially Lily. She suddenly became quieter. She stopped talking about school. She barely touched her favorite pancakes. One night, I found her sitting alone on the back porch. She stared into the darkness. "Do you think Mom forgot what I look like?" My chest tightened. "I don't think moms forget their children." She nodded slowly, but she forgot to come. There wasn't a single sentence big enough to carry that kind of pain. A week later, Lily met her mother for lunch. Ethan waited nearby the entire time. When they came home, Lily barely said a word. That night, she knocked on my bedroom door. She climbed beside me and hugged her rabbit tightly. Then she asked the question that changed everything. If my mom comes back someday, ill will disappear. Every possible answer felt wrong. If I promised I'd stay forever, life might prove me wrong. If I admitted I didn't know, I'd only confirm her fears. I looked into the frightened eyes of a little girl who had already experienced too many broken promises. Finally, I answered as honestly as I could. I can't control what other people choose. She looked down. But I can promise something else. She looked back at me. I will never stop caring about you. She wrapped her tiny arms around my neck. I don't want another person to leave. Neither did I. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Lily tested every boundary. She became angry over little things. Sometimes she'd yell. Sometimes she'd cry for no obvious reason. Once she shouted, "Maybe everybody leaves eventually." Instead of punishing her, Ethan hugged her. "So then we'll keep showing up until you believe us." That sentence became our family motto. We kept showing up. School concerts, doctor appointments, science fairs, bad dreams at 2 o'clock in the morning, homework battles. Every ordinary moment became another chance to prove love wasn't temporary. Months later, Lily's mother admitted she wasn't ready to become a full-time parent. She wanted occasional visits, but couldn't offer more. It hurt. But this time, Lily wasn't facing disappointment alone. She had 2 adults standing beside her. One evening, after another visit with her mother, Lily quietly climbed into my lap. She smiled. "I figured something out. What is it?" "Love isn't who leaves." She squeezed my hand. "It's who stays." I couldn't stop the tears. Neither could Ethan. Children sometimes understand life's biggest truths better than adults ever do. The following spring, Ethan and I got married in a small ceremony surrounded by family friends, neighbors, and several children from the bookstore who insisted on throwing flower petals everywhere except the aisle. Lily walked beside me instead of sitting in the audience. When the ceremony ended, she whispered, "Now you're officially stuck with us." I was hoping for exactly that. Years have passed since then. Lily is taller now. The stuffed rabbit has finally been retired to a shelf in her room. She still calls me when life feels overwhelming. Not because I replaced anyone, because love was never about replacing. It was about choosing each other day after day. Looking back, I understand why her question left me speechless. There was never a perfect answer, only a lifetime of imperfect moments filled with patience, kindness, forgiveness, and consistency. Sometimes humanity isn't found in grand heroic acts. Sometimes it's found in making pancakes before school, reading one more bedtime story, waiting outside dance practice, holding someone's hand during the hardest conversations, showing up again tomorrow and the day after that. Because the greatest gift we can give another human being isn't perfection, it's presence. Lily once asked if I would disappear. I never did. Not because life guaranteed forever, but because every single day I chose to stay. And in the end, that choice became the answer she had been searching for all along.